This episode of the MJCast is brought to you by Crack Corn, the ridiculously delicious ultra-premium puff corn. Not popcorn, puff corn. Buttery, sugary, salty and sweet, you've got to try it. Head on over to crackcorn.com/themjcast for an amazing deal just for our listeners. And they ship right to your door. It tastes amazing, especially their new special Christmas candy cane flavour. Show Crack Corn some love. crackcorn.com/themjcast.
The following is a presentation from the MJCast, the internet's premier podcast on all things Michael Jackson.
I'm a Black American. I am proud of who I am.
Together, we can make a change in the world.
I want to see you!
I like to take sounds and put them under the microscope.
There's a driving bass, we become the bass.
Let the music write itself.
I don't sing it if I don't mean it.
Welcome to the MJCast, your source of news, discussion and interviews on the King of Pop. Hello and welcome to this very special episode of the MJCast. I'm your host, Jamon Bull, and I'm here with my co-host Q, and today we have a very special episode for our listeners, with the one and only TJ Jackson joining us. TJ is here to talk about his new solo EP, Damaged, his impressive music career, and his amazing family. As most of our listeners already know, TJ is the third son of Tito Jackson and Dee Dee Jackson, and is, of course, the nephew of Michael Jackson. TJ is also the former legal guardian of Michael's children, Prince, Paris, and BG.
Hello listeners, it's Q here, and we are rounding out our Jackson family collection of all of the T's with TJ Jackson today. And TJ became a superstar alongside his brothers Taj and Tarrell as part of the group 3T. Their debut album Brotherhood, which has sold over 3.5 million copies worldwide, recently celebrated its 25th anniversary. Where has the time gone? And their music continues to have a dedicated international fan base. The guys have performed all over the world, appeared on television, and starred in a Lifetime docuseries, The Jacksons' Next Generation.
As a solo artist, TJ debuted his single and music video Insomnia in September of 2019. This release marked the start of a trilogy of EP projects, including Obsession, which came out in March of 2020, and his new EP, Damaged, which just recently dropped. His solo music also marks a departure from the sounds of his music royalty family and of the work he did with his brothers, presenting a style that is all of his own.
In addition to all the amazing music TJ's created so far, both with 3T and in his solo career, TJ is a dedicated father, husband, and businessman. This past summer, he and his wife Frances Jackson launched the Family Rules podcast, where they discuss family-related topics and answer questions and concerns from the community.
All right, well, TJ Jackson, thank you so much for joining us on the MJCast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are so excited. Q, I'm so glad you can be here for this episode as well. We have completed the trilogy.
Well,
Yes.
it's more than a trilogy, actually, because it's not only TJ now, but of course we've had Taj and Tarrell join us for amazing interviews, but also Papa T himself, Tito Jackson, was our episode 50. So we've got the whole T family.
Wow. So my father did it too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to tell everyone about Tito time.
I love it. You know, I'm so blessed and obviously thankful of who I am and of being a Jackson. But I'm very, very thankful to have my brothers and father and to hear that all three of them have already done this show and I'm the fourth to do it. It's exciting. So, and I'm happy to be here, you guys. And I want to thank you before we get started. I want to thank you for all the support you've given my uncle. He was and will always be so important and so special in my life. He changed my life in so many ways. And I will always be thankful for him and always cherish him. And I want to thank you guys who go out of your way to support him and defend him and to, and to share your love for him. It means the world to me and my entire family. So thank you.
Thank you very much for saying that. And we've got a lot of questions lined up here about Michael, as well as your music that you've done. So we can't wait to dig into those. I've got to start by saying, though, TJ, I told this story to your siblings as well, but believe it or not, even though, Q and I do the MJCast, I was actually a 3T fan before I was a Michael Jackson fan. The first album I ever got was like a compilation album my grandma bought me for my birthday in primary school, and it had Anything on the album, and I loved it from the moment I heard it in 6th grade. So it's great to be able to talk to you.
That's a cool story, and that's not that's usually not what I hear, but it was very refreshing to hear that you were a 3T fan even prior to being a supporter of my uncle. So thank you for that. It's very cool.
Yeah, you guys were my entry to the Jackson family appreciation.
Love it.
The 3T gateway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so cool to hear, though. So thank you for sharing that.
Mine was Janet. Janet was my gateway. Rhythm Nation was my first ever cassette that wasn't like a family cassette. Santa Claus gave it to me. My sister tried to pinch it before Santa officially gave it to me. But Rhythm Nation was, my first Jackson music that I owned. And then Michael followed with Dangerous. So
yeah. That's so cool. It's so cool, and it's cool to hear it this way because, especially for me, I should say especially for me, I think all of our family, when we do music and do our projects, we're just trying to be the best we can. We never think about how we can positively impact the others. So to hear you guys say that, and to hear how, it's like we're all working on the same kind of team in the same world, and it's beautiful to feel that because I don't usually think about that. So it's wonderful to hear.
Wow. Jamon, before we start the actual, questions for TJ, I thought we should really make things comfortable for TJ, and we've got a disclaimer that TJ, is used to doing disclaimer on his Power of Love radio show because Taj never does it, does he? So
he doesn't. He doesn't.
It's always TJ.
It's always
sometimes
me.
Tarrell.
yeah, it's always me.
So, we should put our disclaimer out there. We are not licensed radio hosts. We're just ordinary people who host a podcast who've experienced the music of the Jackson family in our lives. We've been impacted by it and learned from it. If you need to hear from professionals, we urge you to seek them out in our episode guest list and tune in. But do not just rely on us.
I love that disclaimer. It sounds perfect, like it was perfectly written. So
it really does. It was based on a perfectly written disclaimer.
Well, I that was fun, and I didn't expect someone to read that disclaimer that way, but I'm super happy you did, and it was very sweet. So thank you.
You're welcome. No, I transcribed the other one last night when I got home from a hell shift at work, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is grounding me again.
TJ, what we like to do at the MJCast is start off our interviews with guests going way back to their early lives. Would you be able to talk to us about what it was like growing up as a young boy in the Jackson family?
Yeah, so first of all, let me preface this by saying I don't have the best memory. I'm sorry.
No, we know that was we've already been warned. That was Tarrell, who's got the elephant memory, remembers every detail.
He remembers everything. He could tell you what color socks I was wearing on a certain occasion. But growing up the way we did it's truthfully it's what I consider to be a normal way of life. That's all I knew. I never thought I was more special than anyone. I never thought my family was more special. I just always felt that we were privileged to be able to, be in a career that was so joyous and so loving and so unifying. I felt that, and I knew that was special, but I never considered us to be special. And I give a lot of that credit to my family. They were never I never felt like I deserve something more than the other person. And that is something that I have to say I'm so grateful for, because I've seen a lot of other people who have celebrity parents or grew up in famous families that struggle with that, or had this misconception that they were more important just because there's a connection to, a celebrity or someone popular or someone who's achieved a lot. I never experienced that. And I think that's been one of my family's greatest things they've given to us second generation, is that we're very humble, and we want to do our own thing. We want to create our own thing. We don't feel things should just be handed to us. And I don't know, I feel blessed in that way. As for growing up memories, I would just say, I'm sure my brothers told you, we wanted to be them. We wanted to be Michael, Jermaine, Jackie, Tito, Marlon, Randy. We wanted to be our family. We try to, do their dance moves. We try to play the instruments like them. They were our superheroes, and we grew up practicing every day trying to be like them. And we worked hard, and it was my father who said, this is all cool and stuff, but if you really want to do this as a career, you guys got to start doing your own music and do your own thing. And I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old when we started to record and do our own things, and do early 3T. And back then it was called the 3Ts. It wasn't just 3T. It was the 3Ts, and we had, on my drum kit on the kick drum, it said the 3Ts. And it wasn't until I was 15 where my Uncle Michael said, I think you guys should drop the and the apostrophe S and just go with 3T. And, we were like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's stronger, Applehead. And so we went with that, and we haven't looked back since.
So I was going to ask, Tito and Dee Dee as parents for you guys, did they have different parenting styles? And as you've grown into a parent yourself, are there lessons that they've instilled in you that you've really consciously brought into your parenting style with Francis?
It's a great question. My parents were great parents, great parents. My mother didn't play. We grew up in a well-off area because of my family's success, but my mother didn't play. She didn't care. She would get on us if one chore wasn't done right, or whatever the issue is. If we weren't doing well in school, we got in trouble at school, we were penalizing for it, and if we did really bad, then that's when my father got involved, and I think it's a similar thing as in terms of for how I parent. I think Frances does a lot of the day to day, she's tough, and she comes from a simple background as well. So she's grounded, and then if they get in a lot of trouble, which they don't often, that's when I lean in and have to flex some parenting muscle. But we try to do what my parents did, and that's lead with love. We always make sure we're supporting the kids and what they want to be and what they want to do. We teach morals, and we try to make sure their character is great. And that's something that I learned from my mom and my father. And yes, I'm blessed. I wouldn't trade either parent for anything. And it's kind of like what I think with the first generation. Joe was huge for them. He was their driving force. He was hard on them, but it took that discipline to get out of Gary, Indiana. And then you partner that with Catherine, my grandmother, who's the symbol of love, and who has the biggest heart, and it just is the definition of love. And that combination, I think, it runs through our entire family, because we're very disciplined, we're hardworking, we're perfectionists, we want to be great, but we're also very loving and very, compassionate and empathetic people. And I think that runs through my entire family, and that's something as I've gotten older I've recognized that's so beautiful about my grandparents.
Beautiful. I love hearing you talk about parenting, TJ. As a father myself of a 3-year-old girl, Olivia, I just the stuff you're doing with Francis with the family rules, and just the hope and conviction you speak with as a parent, really it gives me a lot of I don't know, just your advice is really good for young parents, I think.
I went through like a phase like 10 10 to 15 years ago, where I was thinking, what am I going to leave the world? What's going to, my family's done so much. What is my stamp going to be? And ever since I was a kid, I used to get subscription to Parent Magazine at 14 years old. I wanted to be a young father. And when my mother passed, it was like, I need a kid now because I need to feel that love. And I was already I was that kid that at 16 wasn't going out to clubs or to parties. I was trying to pick up my younger cousins to hang with them and try to be like a parent to them. And, and what was so cool was towards the end of his life, my Uncle Michael and we had so many personal conversations on parenting. And we would talk about strategies, what's working, what's not working. And it was a beautiful thing, and it was something that it saddens me because our relationship in that way was just beginning and getting stronger as parenting friends, and it was someone that I could trust and he could trust me, and talk about what wasn't working for him and vice versa. And it was I don't know, I felt like this was a platform. The family rule is something I wanted to share with the world, and in an attempt to help people become the best parents and families they can. And it's something I'm passionate about, as is Francis, and we will always try to bring positivity and love to everyone so that their families can be as strong as possible.
In those conversations with Michael before he passed, when he was talking about being a father, what was some of the advice he gave? What was his parenting philosophy in a nutshell?
Well, he was all about love. Period. He was all about love and supporting and encouraging and making sure their minds were as strong and confident as possible. He believed in the power of the mind and of the importance of developing your children's mental capacity. He believed in reading and in traveling and museums and asking questions. He wanted the three kids to be very inquisitive and to go through things and to experience and to really dive in and to ask questions. And then, like I said, he was very into making sure you felt love. He was big on that. He wanted to hold you. He wanted to tell you he loved you. And he always felt like that was lacking in the modern family, because parents were out busy working, or parents would bring frustrations back home and take it out on kids and on their kids, and that would hurt him. He would literally be in pain talking about that. He stood for that. And I think a lot of people see Michael Jackson as the artist, but I see him as a parent, and obviously I see him as an artist as well. But to me, he was an amazing father, and I feel was going to be an amazing grandfather. So that when I think about my uncle, oftentimes I get sad about how he missed that and how his future grandkids are going to miss that. Where the world, I think, thinks about what they've lost from an artistic standpoint. I think about him as a parent, and he was a beautiful one.
What an answer. We're going to go back again a little bit to your childhood because we've got a bit of a chronological structure to our questioning. Was there a definite moment in your childhood where you and Taj and Tarol started experimenting with music, or was it always sort of just organic in your family?
I don't remember the exact moment. My earliest memories, like I said, I was probably 5, 6 when we first started, and I was just trying to keep up. Taj is 5 years older than me, so he's 10, and Terrell's 3 years older, 8. So they're at an age where they can understand things. I was just there trying to be and trying to hold my own. I think my earliest memories is really playing the drums and, watching. On one side, I had Taj on my left side and Terrell was on my right side. And we were just trying to make music and trying to make it sound good. And seeing my father smile and my mother smile. As a 5-year-old, that's what's motivating you is that you and your siblings can do things that make your parents smile. So we were just trying to play. We were just trying to be as good as we can. I remember my father had a studio in the house. Ponderosa was the name of the studio, and we used to go down there and record with him. And we've done a lot of crazy cool stuff back then and experimented. And Terrell often wrote most of the songs. He was into songwriting, and we would record them. And we took it serious. We acted like, these songs were going to be on the radio. So we put everything we could into them. And actually, in my last night clip, you could see some of the rehearsal. We rehearsed every day and recorded, several times a week. So we took it serious, and I don't think many people knew that. I think they just thought we started as teens, but we were starting as kids. I'm happy, though, we waited till when we did, but we put in the work 10 years before we even came out.
Brotherhood, the album, remains, one of my favorite albums ever. And let's think about it. Your family had so many successes prior to that moment, back, stemming from the 60s, 70s, 80s, all of that. When your album came out in the 90s and it did really well, millions of copies around the world, do you think you guys were ready for that level of attention? Did your family prepare you for it?
That's a good question. We never felt like we did anything. I shouldn't say it that way, but we never felt like we were really moving things. And it was our Uncle Michael who would always say, you guys are doing so great. You guys are killing it. And we were always comparing it to what Michael was doing. And, it's pretty hard to get, if you sell out an arena on your first album, after 6 months of releasing in the territory, that's a huge accomplishment. And that's what we were doing. But when the next day you're going to go see your uncle perform at a stadium with quadruple the amount of people who are more passionate, who are more diverse, and with a bigger catalog of music, and every song is sang, and it's just a whole nother experience, it will humble you quickly. So when I say we never thought we were doing anything, it's because we were always around our uncle, and we saw his level of success. So we always felt we have a long ways to go. But looking back, I realized what we did was very cool and was very successful. And I'm hearing more and more people talk about the Brotherhood album and how much it meant to them and how great it was and how they still play it. And that is, so I'm feeling that success and that love now. But back then, I was so determined to continue on, to try to become even more successful, more bigger, that we never really enjoyed it. As far as being prepared for the attention, I think we were prepared. I mean, we expected it. We knew it was coming. Our whole lives we've been Jacksons, so we were used to fielding questions from people, all types of questions, some great, some positive, some nasty, some negative. So we were used to everything, and I think for the most part we were ready, and I think we did a decent job at holding our own, being second generation Jacksons and being in the spotlight the way we were.
It was an incredible era, and one of the highlights, I think, for many 3T fans, but also MJ fans, is the whole Why single and video. And we really love hearing any stories that you're willing to share of the Why video shoot.
Yeah. Well, the Why video shoot, I remember preparing for it. I remember, this is going to be our first and possibly only video with Uncle Michael, and going to many of his videos in the past, which were huge productions and he took incredibly serious. We, at least I was nervous, and it was probably the one video I was the most nervous for because my Uncle Michael was going to be in it. And, there was all these people there and all these extra things were there. And it was one of those where it had to be great. It had to be perfect. It was a Babyface written song. It was a follow-up single. It was the one with my Uncle Michael. So there was a lot of nerves there. And then when we, I think we did our verses first before he showed up, but then he came and we did the chorus part, the part that you see when we're singing with him. And it was completely opposite to what I thought. He was so laid back and so interested in just projecting the nephew-uncle relationship. And it was so cool because looking back, it is my favorite 3T video, but one of my favorite memories is it's what's captured our relationship. That's what it was. It was laughter. It was fun. It was silliness. It was protection. It was educational. It was everything. And that video with all the shots does such a good job of showcasing that. So when people see the video, I think they enjoy it. But for me, it's like a memory capsule of my relationship with my uncle and my brothers. And because, when we hung out, which was often, we didn't film ourselves, and it was the time before phones. So there was not really, we weren't being filmed like that. But that video captures that magic that we had with our uncle, and I'm grateful for it.
Love that. That's an incredible answer, and yeah, it's such a good song, and definitely a fave video. That relationship really comes through so strong. It was around this time that I have a question. It's a difficult question. It was after your mum Dee Dee's tragic death. I was curious, in your position now where you help people through the Power of Love radio show and Family Rules with advice and guidance and just discussion, what was some of the avenues open to you as young guys during that awful time, and you yourself as the youngest of the family, to try and deal with that awful scenario?
Yeah. I didn't really feel like there was much. And that was one reason why I'm so happy we do, the Power of Love show, and we trying to do our part in making it more accessible, just how to deal with grief and how to deal with loss. Because back in 94, there was nothing, and I remember I was just getting into reading, and I was looking for books. It took me a while to land on one called Embraced by the Light. That really helped me. That was the first book that helped, but there was no internet. There were no really books written, especially for a teen who lost their mother the way I did. And it was hard, but I was lucky to have my family, my grandmother and my Uncle Michael, and also my friends. I had some amazing friends that helped me find the passion to live the best life I could. And I credit, like I said, my uncle, my grandmother, my father, of course, and a handful of friends and their families who saved me, because I went through being such a solid student and a solid kid to not caring about anything. I was numb, and I was lost and frustrated, and I didn't sit in that space long because of those people, and I'm so thankful for it, because I truly feel it saved my life and helped me rebound and helped me do what I need to do to be the best TJ I can.
I'm curious as well what specific role your Uncle Michael played after your mother's death in terms of being with you guys and supporting you.
Well, my Uncle Michael was always there in our lives, and we were always close with him. I think, I just think you felt an even higher level of commitment to us. I felt even a higher commitment level. It was as if it was something he had to do, was make sure we would be okay. He really, especially, he was my idol. He was someone I looked up to. I felt he had all the answers. So when he saw us struggling and saw me struggling with the passing of my mother, it was his voice that was probably the most important, that encouraged me to do things right and to live the life I was supposed to live. And he encouraged me to make my mother proud and to represent her the right way, and to put all that energy and all that frustration, or all those emotions into my craft and my art and my music. I think that's what happened. I think we were doing music and producing good stuff, but I think after my mother passed, it's so interesting how the world works, because before she passed, there was a lot of nerves. There was a lot of this is going to be our big moment, because we had already signed at that point. She knew half of the songs on the Brotherhood album, and there was a lot of nerves about living up to the expectation or making everyone proud. But once she passed, it became like a big weight kind of got lifted off at least my shoulders, where I didn't, is that kind of thing where when you don't care actually can benefit you. And, I think that's what helped us become more comfortable. And I think it helped us go for it without being too much in our head. And our Uncle Michael was there. And of course, my father, just helping us ride that and become the best us we can. And I think that has a lot to do with our initial 3T success, was we were going for it. We had nothing to lose.
I always love the opportunity that I get to ask about Neverland Ranch.
Yes.
Please share some stories about Neverland Ranch. It's a place that, especially for a fan in the 90s when Michael got it and you could see it becoming what it became, like such an amazing place. It was a place that we always just dreamed of visiting and seeing. So please let us live vicariously through you, TJ.
It was a magical place. It was Disneyland, but it was a home Disneyland. Any food you wanted, anything you wanted to do, the freedom, the inspiration, the everything was beautiful at Neverland. Obviously I knew how special it was, and I always loved going, but I didn't realize how magical it really was. And again, I think that's because just being with my uncle, he it was always felt magical. So the home of Neverland felt like the appropriate home for him. But it's looking back and becoming a man myself and experiencing life that I realized how unique and special Neverland was, and how there most likely won't be another. It was just a wonderful place where we got to, have some of our greatest childhood memories, whether it was birthdays or just functions. And it was just a great place to be with my uncle, and to take off that music hat and to let the music outside, but to just be a family. That's probably my favorite memories of Neverland. Is just running and chasing my uncle, or having popcorn, or throwing stuff at each other. That's what to me is the magic of Neverland, is that it provided us a safe outlet where we can do that as uncle and nephews.
Is it a relief that, even though Neverland's been up for sale for a number of years now, is it a relief somewhat that it hasn't been purchased by someone and completely changed? Or is it, how does it feel that, you express such fondness for the place, and then of course, I believe it's Colony Capital got control of Neverland during later years of Michael's life and after Michael passed, and the family doesn't really have much control over it anymore. So what was it like when it did go up for sale, but it's still for sale and no one's taken it over and changed it completely into, a winery or smaller farms or something?
It's tough because, if it was up to me, Neverland would be preserved, and whether it was open to public or saved for my cousins. That's what I would love to have happen, or have happened to Neverland. But I don't know what's going to happen, and that's not what I'm, like you said, our family doesn't have much say in what happens to Neverland. With that said, one thing that I think, obviously, like I said, I would love to keep it. But one thing I don't think fans understand or really pay too much attention to is that Neverland, towards the end of my uncle's life, was a tough space for him. He felt it was violated. He felt the magic was gone or stripped from, the DA over there. And he expressed that. If he, I don't know if he expressed it publicly, but at least privately he did. It's kind of like a double-edged sword type of thing, where obviously I would love to keep that, because I had, like I said, it's my greatest childhood memories there, and it's a magical, unique place. So one part of me obviously wants to keep it and hopes it gets saved and stays. But another part of me understands where my uncle was towards the end of his life in relations to it. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's not really up to me, but I just hope whatever my cousins want to happen is what happens. And like I said, if I could, though, I would love for it to stay, in the family and become the magical place it's supposed to be.
Speaking of family memories, we've got a question here from the co-host of the Janet Jackson podcast, Janet Today. So her name's Courtney, Cousin Courtney, and she wants to know if you have any specific memories or fond memories about the day the 2300 Jackson Street video was shot.
Yes, I remember. I think it was Tara. We had just gotten back from a baseball game that was far away, and it was our house. And we drove back home, and our whole family was there. So we got to shoot the video. It didn't feel like a music video, because we were just having fun. And then the moments where we had to get together, we got together and did our little section. But it was what I love about that video is it showcased something called Family Day, which is something we used to have. The younger Jacksons, I'd say from Jafar down, maybe Dante, Randy down, they don't really know too much about our family days that the older cousins got to experience. And it was a magical thing where, once a month or once every other month, we'd go to one of the family's houses and we'd celebrate and just be a family. And it was so beautiful. And that's what I love about the 2300 Jackson video. It kind of captures what those were kind of like. But yeah, that was our house, and it felt like just a family day, but a captured one. And it was beautiful.
I love that video and song, actually. It's a very underrated track, in my opinion.
Very. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Those harmonies. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. All right, TJ, let's take our first break to chat about our latest sponsor here at the MJCast, Crack Corn. And we couldn't be more excited about this partnership. That's because it's a company started by one of our own, a member of the online MJ community and a huge fan of our show. The company's called Crack Corn. They make this ridiculously delicious ultra premium puff corn. And what's puff corn? Well, you're really just going to have to try it to find out. But this stuff is truly amazing. It's something totally new and unlike anything you've ever tried before. In fact, it was just introduced this year and it's already making major waves across the snacking community. It's buttery, salty, sweet, delicious. It melts in your mouth with the most satisfying crunch. It is just incredible. And their latest flavor, which is a special Christmas candy cane flavor, is sure to have people talking about it. I've tried it and it's great. In fact, I recently brought some along to a work party, a staff room sort of last day of work, Christmas lunch type thing, and put it on the table and people were talking about it. They loved it. Pretty much everyone who tries it gets excited to share it because it gets a real reaction every time. As big fans of the MJCast, they wanted to do something extra special for our listeners, and they created something called Fan Packs. It's the best crack corn deal anywhere, and it comes with a special little thank you surprise just for our listeners who head over to crackcorn.com/themjcast. Go over there, check it out, and try it for the very first time. It's beautifully packaged and presented in what Crack Corn calls an Ecolux gift box. It's very sharp, and these fabulous fan packs are shipped directly to your door or that of a friend. Maybe consider it a Christmas present and get somebody trying Crack Corn for the very first time. Let me tell you, they are going to love it. It's such a memorable experience. You're trying something totally new, and folks, it is ridiculously delicious. It's addictive, and these fabulous sets are less than $20 US after a built-in discount just for listeners of the MJCast. They're gorgeous and sure to impress. Every time I've got crack corn in the house, my wife wants to gobble it up, especially when we're watching a movie. So head over to crackcorn.com/themjcast to try this unique small batch snack. That makes this your chance to be one of the very first to try it. So head over to crackcorn.com/themjcast right now and snag one of those fan packs. And thank you, Crackcorn, for being the MJCast's very first sponsor. We love you guys and Merry Christmas. Let's get back to our interview, TJ. Okay, Identity Era.
Yes.
Another great album. I love the different vibe of it, the more futuristic sound on songs like Sex Appeal. Actually, the song I Appreciate on it, which is one of my favorite 3G tracks, ended up being our wedding song when my wife and I got married. I love it.
That's beautiful.
We actually made a whole video of our relationship up until the point of our wedding that I cut to that song. We played it at our wedding in China, and you guys have had a lot to do with my life, actually, now that I think about it.
I love it. I didn't know that. And, every now and then I'll hear about a song of ours being a wedding song, but I Appreciate is one of actually my favorite songs from that album as well. And it's one that always kind of gets underappreciated. I really do feel that way from that album. I'll be honest with you, there's songs from that album I can't listen to. I just, which is sad, but that one, And there's a couple more, but that one in particular, I still listen to myself, and I just love the simplicity of it and the message it delivers. It's so cool to hear how you and people still are enjoying it, and it's meaning something in your lives. I appreciate that, so thank you.
Yeah, that's my favorite kind of 3T track. I think Frances said that her favorite song from chapter 3 is Heaven, and that's definitely mine as well. And I think there's a lot of similarities between those couple of songs, but I love that type.
Yeah.
So I want to know about the Identity era. So obviously, you had astronomical success with Brotherhood that did really well all over the world. And then Identity came out and clearly didn't do quite as well in the US as other markets. Mm-hmm. And I kind of want to know about the inside story of that. Why didn't it do well? What happened there?
Well, first of all, Identity, it was an interesting time in our lives because we finally got off of Sony, and we finally kind of got our freedom. At that time, although we could have and probably should have signed with a major company, we decided not to. We were so frustrated with big corporations and the bureaucracies that they sometimes have that we were like, we're doing this on our own. We had to create a whole nother album, and we did that. And we decided to go place to place and do it our own. We knew it would be harder. We knew it would take longer, but we also felt it would be more rewarding, and we'd have more control over our careers. So we were doing that. We started off in France and in Holland and in Belgium, and I think there was another market it released in. But again, the timing wasn't really on our side. Our goal was to release in the UK and in the States and eventually Asia. But, there was external type of family things that were happening. One being the Super Bowl and one being, the trial that really sidelined us and discouraged us. And I don't think people really understand what that means. But when you're inside, from the inside, and you're trying to make deals or get on radio stations and you're putting all this work in and then the answer is yes, 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 yes. And then no, all of a sudden, because of something you have no control over, that's very disheartening and frustrating when you put years and years into the art. So I think I don't want to say we gave up on the record too soon, but I just don't think from where we were willing or ready to try to fight all through the nonsense we were going to have to deal with from the media and other outlets because of what was happening to other family members. And I truly feel that's the reason why we didn't release another album for a while, was because it was just hard. And it's not until now that I'm able to deal with that and just ignore it and not care about it. Back then I was very sensitive, and I think my brothers were. That's sensitive on a personal level, but also sensitive because that's our family, and we love them. So it was just a funky time, and I think that also led to the issues. But and I'll say this though, I was just talking to a fan, and she was telling me from the Philippines how Stuck on You plays all the time and how it's doing so well there, because of this TikTok dance that Stuck on You has done, and it's a new thing that's going on, and would I have ever predicted that? Absolutely not. There wasn't like we had a meeting and said we got to make Stuck on You go viral on TikTok. It just happened, and that's an identity record. So you never know what the future's going to bring. The only thing you can control is your art and making it the best you can, and that's what I do. Whether it's with my brothers or on my own, I just try to make the best art I can and let the chips fall. And I can't say I've always thought that way, but it's very comforting and freeing to feel that way now.
It's amazing how your perspective sort of really changes with age and experience. And like you said, you were sensitive at that time, but now you're not, and you sort of just block it out, let it go, move on.
Yeah. It's big, because I still struggle with it a bit, even recording. Look, when I'm recording, I was just in Nashville, and when I'm recording melodies or thinking of parts, a lot of what I do sounds like my family. But, part of it is because I'm inspired by them, and the other part is because I grew up with them, and I'm a Jackson. So it's like that's what feels natural to me. And it took me a while to get to this place where I could just comfortably pursue that. But 5 years ago before that, I always had to kind of go with the second idea that wasn't so Jackson, and it's freeing, absolutely freeing to just not care and to just say you could take it or leave it. And I think it's maturity, but I also think it's just observing how other artists that aren't Jacksons, who are the Weeknds and Chris Browns and Ushers of the world and Jason Derulo, and there's many, many more, and even on the female side too, that borrow or are influenced by my family. It got to the point where it's like, if they can do it, why can't I? And I still get the hate. There's still people that will say, stop trying to be this, or they'll only be one of this. But again, I think that's where the maturity kicks in is like, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to do what feels right and for the craft and the art, and whatever it is, it is. And it's so beautiful. I wish I could explain how freeing that is, but it is. It's been a life changer for me, at least as an artist.
You mentioned a bit earlier during the 3T darker times involved with Sony. Could you sort of give us a little bit of insight into that Sony fallout and how that affected not only probably you guys and your music, but also you guys as a family?
It was hard. It was hard because we were getting a lot of misguided information and false promises from various places. And it was really challenging because we were coming off this huge high of Brotherhood and not able to do anything about it. And then on top of that, you're seeing, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys continue to pursue their goals and to get larger and to expand their fan base and increase their catalogs. And here we are, who are brothers had been doing it for 10, 15 years at that point, just stuck on one album. And it was super, super hard, and we, like I said, we didn't know what the issue was. We just knew we couldn't come out. And it was, it was challenging. It was as challenging as people may think. But at the end of the day, we stayed strong and continued to be one as a family and got through it. But I don't know. I just think, I don't know. It was a tough time and something that that's still tough for us to swallow as brothers. But when it comes down to it, I truly feel everything happens for a reason, and I always try to see the brighter things in situations. So that's where we're at.
Did you guys ever get to the bottom of what Sony's issue was?
I know there was an issue between my uncle and Sony, and my uncle had advised us not to release anything because he felt that Sony would sabotage it and really hurt our careers. And we were told we were going to go to get removed from Sony and onto a different major label, and how it was in effect and how it was happening, next month. And next thing you know, it was years and nothing ever happened. And then Sony still had our rights and our next album just sitting on it. And it took a while for us to get it back and to move on. And I'm not an attorney, and I should know this answer, but I don't. But there's a law where if you have a contract, I think a contract signed in New York is only good for 7 years or something like that. But because we signed in California, the contract is good for life. So they pretty much had us until we released it or until they dropped us, and we couldn't really get out of the situation. We tried, but we couldn't. That's when I just picked up and moved. I had to get out. I moved to Texas. I had started a small family, and I just had to turn the page because I was going crazy. And, it took a while, but we eventually got our freedom. And like I said, that's why we did Identity the way we did it. We didn't want to deal with any major label because it was so frustrating and traumatizing what had just happened to us.
So you mentioned an album that Sony had, and I think your brothers also told us this, that you actually worked on an album for Sony that's never come out.
Yeah.
And I think Taj let us know that Michael himself was somewhat instrumental in that album and its production. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, we refer to that album as the Lost Album. And, We did every single song on the album. It was finished. We were actually meeting and doing marketing plans for it. We were coming out. Like Taj had said, my uncle was very invested in that album. There's several songs that he was very strong on. There was a couple that he was going to sing on for the album. To be honest, I feel it's the best 3T album, and it's unfortunate that it hasn't come out, and I'm hoping one day it will. We spent years, and I think it was just the album that we created when we had confidence and we had an understanding of where we wanted to go. And I just feel it had a little bit of everything. It had our ballads, and it had some strong ones in it, and it had some up-tempo ones that everyone seemed to really like. And that was something that was new. We didn't really, the one thing with 3T and Brotherhood, I don't know if we really found ourselves from an up-tempo side of things, where other artists did, who were our comparisons, who were in our same world. And on the Lost album, we had some up-tempos that we were very strong on and that felt like 3T, and were unique, that were going to come out, but it just wasn't meant to be. And again, I hope the album does come out. I hope I could share it, and my brothers, we all share it for our fans, but as of now, it's just in the 3T vault.
One day we will be ready.
One day, I hope. Yeah,
we'll be ready for it.
It's a fun one, and I really hope we figure a way to do something where it gets the proper push and some type of promotion that it deserves.
So 2019, we're going to skip forward a bit, and this is a little bit for time, because do not skip past chapter 3, folks. It's a great album. It was a great era. We had that wonderful reality show that gave us this sort of insight that we hadn't had with the Jacksons' Next Generation, you and your cousins. But just for time, we're going to skip forward to 2019, where we saw the release of Insomnia and I Don't Deserve This. And Jamon and I at the time, we were like, oh, this is some pretty cool sounds right here. It was a new era from TJ. Did you talk to your brothers about solo efforts much before that release? And is that tricky, because you're still in a band, really? So is that tricky when you're going to come out with some solo stuff for really the first time?
Yeah, no, I didn't really talk to them. That's one thing that would surprise people. It surprises me. We don't really discuss individual projects in my family. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it comes from, but we just don't. I never intended to be a solo artist. I really intended to just write. So I would go to Nashville to write, songs for females, songs for teens, songs for country artists. I was going up there literally writing 10 to 12 songs every trip, which was about every 3 or 4 months. And then after doing that 7 times, I started to get a little collection of songs that felt right for TJ. By the way, I'm sorry for referring to myself as TJ. It sounds
okay.
Obnoxious, but I don't know why I got in the habit of doing that. But I just started feeling there's songs that could be good for a project that I may want to do one day. Sure thing. I was enjoying my trips to Nashville and creating music, and a couple other people were saying, you need to do something. If 3T's not going to do anything now, don't just, you're not getting younger, just do something. And I'm sure that weighed in on me as well, and I just went for it. To be honest, I never thought about harming the group. I always saw it as a benefit. I'm a 3T, member, will always be. I'm excited for the next 3T project, but I can't just sit back and wait. At the same time, I have to do music. I have to keep it going. I hope there will be another 3T project. I know nothing's on the short-term radar, but I'm hoping one day it will. I think I never really felt like I was leaving the group or felt guilty for doing a solo project, because Terrell had already done several projects by the time I released anything. So I never felt like I was turning my back on my brothers. Not only, like I said, because Terrell was, but also because, I'm a proponent for 3T. If 3T wanted to do a tour tomorrow, I'm there. So I never felt, no matter what happens in my solo career, there's no better feeling to me than being on stage with my brothers. So if no matter what happens in TJ land, 3T will hopefully always be there for us and something we'll share with our community and our fans.
And then, of course, 2020 kicked off with a great musical release from you with the single I Can't Stand It. Like,
Yeah.
a great track. Now, 2020, like, with all this happening as the pandemic then erupted a few months in, how did the 2020 we ended up getting affect or change your musical projects this year?
It affected and changed a lot, actually. You know, I had a whole plan to release different song and a different album and a different way of doing it. I was planning to be in Europe and promoting it, but it didn't happen that way. When things like that happen and your plans get disheveled, I'm pretty good at changing directions and just letting it be. It wasn't meant to be, you know, and it wasn't meant to happen that way. So I've adjusted. I've done, you know, I just started doing a chill hop kind of experimental project, which is going to be my focus for 2021. And then, you know, hopefully once this pandemic is behind us, in 2022, I'll go back to the album I was excited to release in 2020 that never came out. And I'm confident that the music will still sound the way it should because I used a lot of live instrumentation. My song Last Night, you know, it's very live musicians and horns. That's pretty much the direction of the whole album, and that was going to be for that album. But, you know, like I said, things happen, and now I have a new project to do this year, or, you know, in 2021, and 2022 we'll see the live stuff and the direction I wanted to go, and I'll get out to Europe then and promote it the way I've always wanted to.
And Australia, come on.
And Australia,
TJ
yeah.
Love Down Under.
Yes, Australia, and that's one thing that I have to say that's been such a beautiful thing with my project is I've seen and experienced so much love and warmth from people everywhere, places I didn't expect, you know, from South America, Australia, Asia. There's many others, but I knew there were fans there. I knew that there was love there, but the amount of fans and the amount of love and the depth of the love has been so important and empowering to me. And I just want to thank everyone who may be listening, who's showcased that love, who spread that love in many different ways, from telling me to dancing to my music, to listening, to drawing pictures. It means so much to me, and it's something that I will always appreciate and something I'll always cherish. So for anyone out there, regardless of where you're at, I appreciate it. I see you, and I thank you.
That's beautiful. Now, for a casual observer, you've been dropping a lot of music this year, you know, single after single. Would you be able to explain the release strategy for us? And it's a trilogy of EPs, right?
Yeah, so it's, and I go back and forth on this because it was supposed to be a trilogy before the pandemic, and then it switched to just 2 EPs, or 1 EP in an album, and then switched to 2 EPs. But I'm kind of back on the trilogy. I just don't think the third part will come out for some time, at least several years, to be honest. But I do have an idea on how to wrap up the trilogy. But yeah, the release strategy is, the mindset is simple. Enjoy it and make sure your fans are enjoying it. Do what they would want. And it's been hard to adjust to that because I grew up in an era where you release a song and you push and promote it for 3 months, and there's a certain way and a method you promote it and push it. I've went away from that, and I'm happy I have, because for me, I've been there and done that, and if I'm not going to enjoy this process 100% every step of the way, I don't know how long I can last doing this. And I made a promise to myself and to, you know, my fans that we're going to enjoy this. It's going to be our journey. I'm going to release music, you know, as much as I can, and trying to make sure the quality is as great as it can. And we're going to have fun doing it. And that's what my strategy is. I'm not going to get caught up on doing this show or that show, or getting on this station, or doing it this way. I've been there, done that. It's draining, it's tiring, it's frustrating. It can be disappointed when you get sidetracked, or I should say, you know, hoodwinked when they're saying they're gonna do this, and they really just wanted you to talk about this member or to set you up in a negative way about, to talk about whatever. I have no interest in that. And if I sense any of that going on, I say no. It's been kind of refreshing and freeing. Some in my camp, want me to do more promotional things that would maybe expose me to more viciousness, but I'm not for that. I'm gonna do me and do it the way from my fans and myself and my family, and I'll let it grow organically. I don't plan on just doing music this year or next year or the year after. This is what I'm gonna try to do until the day I die, and I believe in art and I believe in organic growth. That's what my goal is, and that's my mindset going into every single song.
Let's talk Damaged. TJ,
Yes.
Damaged. So, last night, it's such a smooth and funky groove. Like when I wrote notes, when I listened to the EP, like every single song has smooth on it or smooth groove. So, talk us, like Jamon, what are some of your favorite tracks? You've got like Last Night as well.
Oh yeah. Last Night for sure. The first time I saw the Last Night video even and heard that song, that just instantly went on high rotation in the Bull family household. I love how you talked about it. When you said it was like organic and funky, that's exactly what I love about it. It harkens back to that 70s vibe, that funk vibe, and I love that song. It's probably my favorite on the EP, but I also love Damaged as well, the final track. It's a masterpiece and takes so many twists and turns, but brilliant EP, and just congratulations on being able to get it out for the world to enjoy. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I think the smoothness you're referring to is just me trying to be my authentic self and being real with myself and what I am, and that's someone who loves R&B, someone that's been influenced by, my whole family. And I think as long as you can stay true to who you are with your art, it's always going to have this sense of smoothness, and it's going to feel right. In general, it's going to feel right. And that's something I take pride in. I'm not willing to do what's trendy or to do what's current unless I enjoy it, and Damage is a perfect example. I had no intention of doing that kind of sound. I've always loved chill hop and lo-fi, but I didn't really have any plan to record a song like that anytime soon. But because of the pandemic, I reached out to my producer, David Tulane, and said, I'm thinking of doing a chill hop type of vibe. Can you just come up with some ideas and send them my way, and I'll see if any are resonating with me. And he sent me, a couple of tracks. The first one I fell in love with, and I just would listen to it over and over, and the melody just came in my head and the idea, and it became Damaged. And like I said, the album I'm doing this year in 2021 is very much in that vein. It's that smoothness, and it's what feels right to me. And I'm big on that, you guys. I'm gonna just go with the flow. I'm gonna follow my heart and not follow the trends, and I'm gonna hope that the fans are enjoying it.
I love hearing that. I love it. Can I also just say, I love the visuals that you are using for this EP, like the single cover, just the artwork and the video style. Like the visuals are really strong. So I just really want to give you props for that as well.
Well, yes, that's Omar Pachursky from Pictogram Studio in France. He's a genius.
Yes.
And he... I was blessed to connect with him, and he gets me and what I want to do, and he challenges me, and he's just a great partner in that way in finding a visual for me. Yeah, I have to credit him. He's the brainchild behind most of my visuals, and I'm thankful for him.
Now, while we're on visuals, I've got to ask, some of these videos are very, how do we say this, romantic. And I want to know, truly, how does Frances feel about some of these videos? There is no way in hell my wife would be.
I love that. Frances, I think we've been together long enough, and she's been through enough, and she understands what I do. We've been together for over 20 years, and so she's been around the music industry for 20 years, whether, whether she wants to admit that or not. She's seen it a lot, and she knows that visually and what you project is sometimes going to be, you have to go into a character. She knows she has my heart. She is my queen, and as I say, I'm so lucky to have her. I truly don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am, not only from an artistic standpoint, but just as a person without her. And she knows where my heart is, and she knows what she means to me. So I think just that time, I don't think I could get away with doing this stuff, 3 or 4 years into a relationship. But when you're above 20 years, you get a little bit more, leeway to experiment and do things. So, but yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. It hasn't been perfectly smooth, but it's actually been very peaceful. It's been very peaceful.
TJ, around the US election time, I saw you were sort of sharing resources via your social media and commenting on some of the social issues. What drives you to speak out on those topics, especially at that time?
I just feel I have to use any influence I can to make the world a better place for all of us, but really for the next generation, for our future. And, which the Arbery murder, Ahmaud Arbery, that one really got to me, and that one really affected me. And I had seen and experienced, my little share of racial injustice, but the way Arbery lost his life, how it felt as if he was below a human, and the cover up that took place after was just disheartening. And I made a promise to myself that I will always try to do the right thing. And it's tough because it's not that I was ever afraid to be more social or to speak my mind. I just always have thought of myself and my art as an escape. So I have to find. Well, I always try to find myself walking that fine line of being that social activist or supporting causes or supporting things, but also I want to remember that life is hard. So people are going through tough moments, and I don't want them to go to my Instagram page and then see more tough things and to get even more depressed or more down. I really want to be a source of joy for people. So it's hard balance, but I was just too inspired, and I felt it was too important, and we were at too critical of a moment in humanity to just ignore. There's been some things that I've been wanting to post recently that I've like, what, let's just hold off on it. But it's something that I plan to do for forever. I just want to make sure I'm managing it so that people are getting the escape, because that's what I want to be first, and that's what I think I'm best at, is being an escape for people and to just trying to bring smiles to people.
Awesome answer. Thank you. Yeah, I really do salute you for using your platform and sharing your opinions and resources when it comes to this kind of stuff. I think that is important, and I really salute you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Especially being in such a divided country. I mean, we could see, watching the election from afar, Q and I were sort of shocked at just how many voters turned out for Trump. And I mean, that's a lot of people. And you are a musician who is, marketing out to a lot of people and putting your real thoughts and opinions out there like that on social media. You can see why a lot of artists hesitate to do it, because it might impact that bottom line.
Yeah.
So it's brave.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but it's it's what's right, and I think if anyone who followed me, they would know who I voted for or what I stand by or who I would agree with. But I try to never acknowledge that or never say it for two reasons, because I truly believe there are people who are voting for a Trump, but not realizing what his messaging has done to several other people. I have some fans that really are strong Trump supporters. And I know they're not racist. I can guarantee you that. And I know they have big hearts. I can guarantee you that. I just think sometimes, and the media doesn't do the best job either. They can slander, even Trump. They can slander him and make him look even more vicious than he is. Saying that, I do feel that with his experience and what he's been through and being in the industry as long as he has been, he knows how to play the game a bit and do what he needed to do to try to get the biggest support. And like you said, over 70 million voted for him. So, he hit some chord, right? But like I said, I just try to project good human qualities and try to just remind people that we have to remember the ones who are oppressed or the ones who are in a disadvantaged situation, and we have to respect them. We have to listen to them. We can't assume, I can't tell what a European who migrated to the U.S., what that's like. They have to tell me and I have to listen to them. And I think sometimes people assume they know all the answers. They assume they know why this isn't happening for this type of person. And oftentimes they're wrong and they're not really feeling it. And I'm just trying to make the world more empathetic to each other and doing it in my own little way.
TJ, change of gears here, but 2 nights ago you tweeted, and I quote, "I love my grandmother. She is a queen. #Catherine Jackson."
Yeah.
Explain to us, what Catherine means to your family and the world.
Yes. Well, I can only explain perfectly what it means to me and my family. And she is the queen. She is, if I am down, I can think of my grandmother and smile. I think about her every day. I love her, more than I can express. I've learned so much from her. And when I tweeted that, I was probably just in a moment where I was thinking of her and just realizing how blessed I was to have, or I am, I'm sorry, to have her as my grandmother. I don't know. What's cool is because of social media, I've seen so many people, and because of things like those tweets, a lot of people reach out to me telling me their own little stories about Catherine Jackson or what she means to them. And I didn't realize how influential my grandmother was to everyone, but she really is, and she rightfully is, because what you see and what you feel is her. And like I said, it's tough being a Jackson, and it's tough, and we've dealt with a lot, but we learn to move on and to show love always because of her. And, I tell her, I thank her all the time. I tell her her importance in our family, and she's so humble about it. She goes, "Oh, stop it. You're going to make me cry." That's what she says a lot. But I tell her, you are such a queen, grandma, and I always love you, and I always want to thank you for being you. And I think it's important to tell people that, especially your grandmother. So that's what that is. It's just me expressing my love and appreciation for her as a person.
I think it's been pretty clear that Mother Catherine has been a rock for your family through so much. What toll has the media, the allegations, all of that taken on you?
It's been tough. It's been so tough. It's been tough for many reasons. Growing up, when you're a kid and hearing it, and like the 93 allegations, I was 15, and it's like your first taste of viciousness. And it's hard to hear things being accused of your uncle, and seeing him, experiencing the love of him, and experience how important of a person he is in your life, and how he's only done amazing and wonderful supportive things for you, and seeing how it's affecting him, and knowing you can't really do much to stop it. That was hard, and that was something that was really tough for myself to get through. And then it just carries on. You go to school and you got to hear jokes, or you go out to eat and you got to hear people talking about it and acting as if they know him, and talking about what he did or didn't do, or what he's into and what he's not into. And they could be so far off, but that's just, I guess, one of the unfortunate things of being, one of the most popular persons on the planet. And like I said, even the recent stuff, it's frustrating, it's tough. But it hits me a little different. I understand what the news is. I understand their aim and their goals and their reasoning. But at the same time, I'm also a big cousin to three kids who and that's their father. And, and even my kids, that's their uncle, we're all very protective of him. And that's where it gets hard, because it's like dealing with how do you help these kids get through this frustrating and tough time when the world is trying to crucify someone you love. That's the challenging thing. That's the toughest moment for me now. But yeah, I don't know. It's still hard. You could wake up and see a news headline and it could ruin your day. And that's only because I know how magical of a person he was, and I know how much love he had in his heart. So it's going to bother me knowing how far off base it is. But that's just, I guess, the price you pay when you love someone that much. There's going to be pain and there's going to be frustration, and that's what I experience.
On the flip side of that, does it also give you hope when you see the support that your family and that Michael still gets? Like, we all feared last year the worst, that, he'd be over and cancelled, you'd never hear his song on the radio again. But now he's still earning the most as a deceased celebrity, according to the Forbes list. He's still, every single year, being the number one earning celebrity. His music is back on radio stations, and not even in a small way. Like, it's pretty common that you'll hear MJ song on a radio station. Celebrities are still wearing MJ t-shirts. You've got the BTS Dynamite video where it's a clear, amazing, beautiful tribute to your uncle and his style. So does that flip side help and give you hope that, it did not go to plan for a big portion of people, and that Michael is still, the people still see the real, true Michael and support that?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Without the fans' support and them, rallying together and putting pieces together and to support my uncle, and it was just huge. It was so warm and still is when fans show that, because my uncle always said it's the fans. I do what I do for my fans. It was so cool to see, have those experiences of him saying that in private. And then, long after he has passed, it's his fans that are coming to bat for him and supporting him and defending him and being there for him. So it's as if, it's very warming, because it's as if he put, he bet on the fans and they're paying it, and they've won, and they've been strong and haven't folded. Yeah, and as far as the artist, it's beautiful, and I just think it's cool, because my uncle was very influential, and the message of love and the message of put your heart into your craft resonated with those artists. And it's very cool for them to have ignored any negativity and pursued and continued to promote and support him. But I think for a lot of these artists, they get it. They've had their own little mini issues and mini struggles with media and outlets. So they can understand what it would be like for my uncle. And now that he's not here to defend himself, a lot of them are like, no, we're not going to go that way. I'm gonna go out of my way to support him. And it's been beautiful. And there's been a lot of artists, and if any are listening, I want to thank you, because it means a lot to not only my uncle's legacy and not only to his family, but also to his kids. Like I said earlier, we wear, the Jackson name very proud, and we try to make sure it represents love and humanity, and when that tries to get tarnished from just a handful of people, it can be very tough. But if you live with love and you're really strong on it, I truly believe that the truth will always prevail, and my uncle will prevail, and he will always be the symbol of love, and what he stood for and meant, I think, will always be what he is, and so I'm blessed to have all the fans do what they did, and if you haven't heard me thank you, I'm thanking you now again because it's you who've done so much for him, and like I said, our entire family. So thank you.
Last year was a heck of a year. Like, in some ways, probably worse for some people than maybe this year. It's been tough this year, but it was a tough year last year. What last year, when Leaving Neverland dropped, what was that like for you as a member of the Jackson family? Because also you would have known some of these guys.
Oh, it was awful. It's I don't really have any more words.
Yeah.
It was just bad. It was bad, and it wasn't our first time dealing with it, but it was the first time in a while because when my uncle passed, the sentiment around him was very positive, and they realized that how he was treated was wrong, and they started to really dig into what he stood for and the message of love that he wanted to deliver. And then to all of a sudden have to deal with these guys who are going to make accusations, knowing that in a way they can't really lose, because if they tarnish him to enough and they can get some type of credibility, they can make a great fortune doing so. That's just our world right now, and so it was really tough, and really I lost many hours of sleep as a beloved nephew of my Uncle Michael, but also as guardian to my cousins, and just trying to make sure they understood who their dad was, and because the media and your peers can be very influential. It was just a tough time period, and it was just tough. It's just tough.
Not to mention that you and your brothers was sort of dragged into it in a disgusting way by media outlets insinuating that there was something, going on there, which it was just terrible. And I can't imagine how you guys would have handled that. Like,
yeah, and truthfully, that one didn't. I mean, it didn't bother me as much because I just know what the media is going to do, and I knew if someone put a mic or a camera in front of me to ask about it, I could I would just tell from my heart how it was bogus, and I knew that wouldn't have legs. But what was just concerning is when there's channels or production companies that have an agenda, and they have like I said, the support of a handful of people to make sure that's delivered, because the world is small and anyone can say anything about anyone. And if you have some support on what you're saying, you can make some leeway. And that was the troubling thing, is just knowing that in the back of my mind and having to deal with that and the fear of that. But at the same time, I was hopeful and somewhat optimistic that the truth would always prevail and would prevail sooner than later. And I think the sentiment on my uncle is coming back to where it should be, and that's that he was a person of love. I truly feel that his love was too big for this world. I think simple things that he believed in, holding people, telling people, looking in their eye, telling them that, I love you, I believe in you. I think sometimes it's so sad to say, but those kind of messages are still too pure for our world. And if you're wanting to get money or do something negative, you could twist that easily and make something scandalous. But my uncle wasn't that. He was all love and beauty. And throughout my life, from the time I could walk to the time, last time I saw him, I've had many up and down periods, many very difficult moments in my life. And every single one, he was there as a loving uncle and supportive. And I appreciate that, and will always fight for him and his truth.
One of the biggest warriors out there for Michael's innocence is your brother Taj.
Yeah.
There's not a week that goes by that he isn't doing an interview with somebody, and he's in the background working on crafting this documentary series about Michael. Are you involved with that documentary series at all?
I'm not involved with the documentary series. I am not, but I will say that I'm very proud of Taj, and Taj he doesn't get enough credit in this way, because as a Jackson member, we kind of grew up, at least from the older generation, and I consider myself somewhat of the older generation because I was around them. We were kind of taught to just ignore it, that sometimes addressing things would give it more legs. But Taj has been kind of on the forefront of flipping that on its head and realizing that in today's world, sometimes you have to tack things right on before they get legs, squash things. And he's always been a believer of that, as far as the last at least 10 years. And he's always went to bat for my uncle. And I appreciate it, and I'm thankful for him. And, he's passionate about it, which is beautiful. So I'm proud of my brother. I'm proud of everything he's doing. I think it's important, and I know he's going to continue on and always defend my uncle until he can't any longer.
Just moments ago, you spoke about how you thought Michael's love was too big for this world, and I don't think you'd find many MJ fans that would possibly disagree with that statement. But what was Michael like as a regular guy? We love hearing those stories about just MJ, the regular guy. Have you got any standout stories that would really surprise people?
I would just say he loved to have fun, and he loved to understand things and ask questions. He would call in the middle of the night saying, I remember, the Barry Bonds situation. Barry Bonds was breaking home run records, breaking Babe Ruth home run records, and was dealing with, some accusations himself. And my uncle was very interested in that and trying to understand that. So he'd call, and he knew I was close with Barry, and he would call me to ask about what's going on, and he heard about it, and how can he help Barry get through that situation. And and he was just plugged into what was going on, and he was big about trying to share his knowledge with people that he believed in. But yeah, he was a beautiful person who loved to have fun. He loved to throw water balloons and tease and just do silly things. Underline everything, like I said, it was a huge heart that would give anything to anyone. His staff, if anyone needed anything, he would do it. If someone lost, one of their parents lost their lives, he would pay for the funeral or to make sure they were taken care of. He tried to treat everyone with such huge love and respect, and try to always give more than what people expected to make them smile. That was who he was.
A few years after Michael's passing, you testified in the AEG trial, and your testimony was particularly compelling because not only do you discuss Michael as being in good spirits the last time that you got to see him, but you also emphatically stated that you believed that he was murdered. Could you briefly talk to us about your last time seeing Michael and then why you believe he was murdered?
Yeah, my last time with my uncle was at a function for my grandparents. And like we did all the time we connected in the latter part of his life, we talked about parenting and family and, are you going to have any more kids? Yes, I plan to too. That's what we were talking about was parenting and family, and it was beautiful. We'd laugh, we'd joke, and it was a great time. As far as I think it was just tough because my uncle, the last several years of his life, was truly fearful for his life. He always felt, he would always refer that he felt like someone was going to try to take his life over the catalog. And, I always thought I didn't think he was right. I thought he was maybe a little more paranoid than he should have been. But then the way he passed, the way he died, it was very questionable, and it made me think, maybe there was some foul play. Maybe there is foul play. And, I think just knowing from what my uncle wanted to do and the goals he had and what he was talking about, I still feel that there's something off about the way he passed. And, I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to, bring in more attention to negative MJ news, but I still feel something is off. I just do.
You just mentioned plans that Michael was talking about for the future. Could you elaborate on any of those plans that Michael never got to realize?
Well, I don't think he would have had, I think he would have had more kids, to be honest. I think there would have been at least one more. That was a question that we talked about. He asked me, was I done? Because I had just had Dee Dee, she's now 12.
Wow.
Yeah, but I had just had her, and he got to meet her for the first time, and he was asking me, "Are you done, Applehead?" And I said, "No, I think I need at least one more." And he smiled and he said, "Me too," you know. And so I think he was gonna have more, and I don't know how many more, but he enjoyed parenting, enjoyed fatherhood, and you know, it was his passion. You know, once he had Prince. I'll never forget when he told us he was gonna be a father. We were in Disney in Paris, you know, and we were there for 3T, and he was there promoting something, and our paths crossed, and we were both at the Disney hotel, and we connected, and you know, he told us, and it was beautiful because he was so overjoyed and excited to be a father, and you know, it still breaks my heart, like I said, that he didn't get to experience the beauty and joy of father as long as he should have.
One of the highlights, just listening to you talk today, TJ, has absolutely been about your fatherhood, Michael's fatherhood, and that shared parenting friendship that was blossoming and encouraging you both. You mentioned that Michael helped after your mother was murdered, and then fate had it such that you did the same for his children.
Yeah.
So through your grief, through both of those things, did it somewhat feel like one of those full circle moments in life that you were put in that position as guardian of Michael's children?
Well, I think I remember the last several years of my uncle's life, me trying to figure out something to get him. And I couldn't think of it. You know, there's no TV. You know, he liked gadgets. He liked new technology. Even though he wasn't the best at using them or putting them together, he loved to know what was happening and what was going, the future. He was into that. So, but I couldn't get him anything because, you know, before I could get it, he already had it, you know, from his connections, or they were sending it to him for his feedback. So I could never figure out what I could get for him. So I used to get him parenting books and you know, but it was never of anything that was substantial where I felt like I could pay him back. And when he passed, you know, I felt a strong pulling to be there for his kids and to be there and to help, you know, in any way I can for them to be what he, you know, the way he wanted them to be. And, you know, with my brothers, I told my grandmother that, you know, we're not going anywhere. It's hard what these, you know, my cousins are going to have to go through, but we will be there for them. And, you know, at that time I was the one that had, you know, the kids. I was married with kids and not many of my cousins were. And my grandmother would go out of town. She'd always ask me to be there. I would live almost 2 hours away, so I'd drive in and spend the time with my cousins and just be the best big cousin they could be. And then in time, I became guardian, and I took that role and still take that role very seriously. You know, and it's not the easiest thing to do because I'm not their father, and I'm not much, oh, I am older than them, but I was their cousin first. You know, I was like their peer first. And then to try to be in this parental role, it could be challenging. So I had to kind of take a different approach to it. I had to just be there for them and just be like the big brother for them. I don't know. I couldn't have lived life without being there and doing what I did. I couldn't have. I would have always regretted not doing more for them. I would have always thought about them. Now that they're older and getting more adjusted to life, I feel like I can now pursue me and my career and what I want to do fully. I can't say I've always felt that way, and I think that's why it took me also so long to do my own music. Is because, you know, before 2019, I wouldn't have felt, I would have felt it was too early and the kids were still too young. So I wanted to wait till they were all adults before I pursued and did my thing.
I really honorable decision. And I think the entire Michael Jackson fan community, when we look at you, not only do we see an amazing musician, but also somebody who's taken a really important lead role following his passing in terms of the family. So thank you.
Yeah, you know what though, and I'm gonna hesitantly stop you. I appreciate the thanks, but I truly don't feel they're warranted. I don't. I owe so much to my uncle. I've always felt like it was the right thing to do. I didn't do it for thanks or or attention or anything. I did it from my heart. Saying that and this is a good time to mention this. I truly believe Frances, my wife, is the one who deserves more of the praise because she had her own business and we had our own life 2 hours away from LA that we were very comfortable and happy in. And when I became guardian, we uprooted, to try to bring this blended family together and trying to do it the best way we can. And she sacrificed more than me. I had this pulling. I felt this pulling. I felt in debt to my Uncle Michael, but for her, she was just following her husband and following his heart. So I owe so much to her for supporting me and never giving me an issue or never throwing difficult moments in my face. It wasn't easy, and it's not easy, doing this, not for me or her or our family, but it was necessary, and I'm just thankful for her that I have her and her support. So if anyone's trying to thank me, really, it should be going to her because she sacrificed a lot.
Thank you, Francis.
Yeah.
What a team. What a team.
All right, TJ and Q, let's take our second and final break of the episode, this time to talk a little bit about the MJCast's shop, which people can access at themjcast.com/shop. We love our merch store, and so do many of our listeners. It's a great way to get your hands on some Michael Jackson / the MJCast merch. You can wear it out to the shops. You can take it around with you and really get people talking. It's great. And some really, really good gifts as well coming into Christmas. Let's talk about some of the designs that we have at themjcast.com/shop. So we've got lots of different products, and I'm going to talk about 7 great designs, and all of these designs can be applied to all kinds of different products. And the products include t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and laptop sleeves and phone cases and artworks and tote bags and you name it. There's just so many different things. There's even masks on there, and we know that now more than ever it is so important with coronavirus, so you can get some really great masks with MJCast or Michael Jackson designs on them. And speaking of designs, we do have 7 great ones. The most popular by far is our classic sunset logo, which has the MJCast logo there in a cool retro sunset 80s vibe design. And we sell a lot of that one, and we get emails from people that love it. And I love seeing photos of people wearing that one out in public on t-shirts and different things. It's really cool, and it gives me a real kick to know that the MJCast is being supported out there publicly. And speaking of our logos, our second design is called 9 Logos, and you can get all 9 of our seasonal logos, including our Christmas one, our Halloween one, all in one spot in a grid pattern. Again, either on a t-shirt or a hoodie or lots of those other products. The next couple of designs are text-based designs, and you've probably seen people getting around with those cool Helvetica list-style t-shirt designs, and that's exactly what these are. So you can get the Jackson's brothers' names, you can get all the Captain EO characters, or even all of Michael Jackson's solo albums listed there in that cool text design. And again, you can get that on a shirt or all different kinds of products. I recently got a great gift, actually. I haven't opened it yet. It's for Christmas. It's already under the tree, but I know that Elise has sent me this beautiful white mug with the Jackson brothers' names on there. And I can't wait to get that one open. All right, so the last couple of designs I want to talk about are ones that I recently designed myself. I designed all of these myself, but the last 2 that I want to discuss are ones I've spent a lot of time on. And these are, I'm really proud of them. They're 90s PC adventure game inspired retro pixel art shirts. And you've got one called the Pixel Tour, which has all of the opening tour costumes that Michael Jackson wore in his solo tours, and he's standing there in all of them in pixel art design. with, again, a cool, like kind of 80s sort of retro vibe to it. It's really, really fun. And then another one called Victory, which has all the Jackson brothers there and their Victory Tour costume and pixel art design, again in that retro artwork that you guys, I'm sure, will love. So what we really want you to do is head over to Redbubble, which is the website that actually facilitates our store. They handle all of the shipping and manufacturing. They manufacture locally, so the stuff gets out to you guys really quickly. And we want you to go check it out at themjcast.com/shop. All proceeds go to show running costs, charity, and equipment. And you can, by grabbing some of the stuff there, support us, because we love it when people support us. It enables us to keep the show going. And you can promote the MJCast and Michael Jackson all at the same time by grabbing something from the shop. And what a great idea, I think, especially at Christmas time, whether you want to get a gift for yourself from the shop, which would be great, but also think about your MJ fan friends. Maybe you want to buy something on the MJCast store and you can get it shipped directly to them as a gift to enjoy this Christmas. They can put it under the tree. We've all got those special MJ friends in our lives that we want to kind of really show they mean something to us. And I really value the fact that Elise sent me a cool little MJCast piece of merch as well for Christmas, so do consider that. Don't forget to share your pics with us on social media when you grab something, maybe a t-shirt or whatever, or a coffee mug and you're drinking out of it. Grab a selfie, send it through. We'll be sure to post it on social media. Just make sure you email it to themjcast@icloud.com with your social media handles, and we'll get that one out there. Well, thank you very much for your support, especially to those of you who have already grabbed something from themjcast.com/shop. If you have, I know you'll be happy with the quality, because we always hear back from people saying they're really happy with the quality. Thank you very much, and let's get back to our TJ Jackson interview. Well, TJ, I want to dive into another topic here, and this one is something like we've talked a little bit about the tragedies that have beset Michael in his lifetime with the allegations, and then obviously his tragic death. There is another thing that's on a lot of Michael Jackson fans' minds, another tragedy that struck him really in a lot of ways, especially around his music catalog. And this is something you were very vocal about with your family. But the fact of the matter is that there are still fraudulent and fake Michael Jackson songs for sale today by his record label. And this is there's a class action lawsuit against the estate, the people who did this, Eddie Cascio and James Port. It just got a lot of traction within the last couple of days with some big legal entities backing Vera Sarova, the fan that's bringing the class action. And we want to talk to you a little bit about what it was like in 2010 when this kind of unfolded, and the Cascio family in general. In the final years of Michael's life, Michael spent a lot of time with the Cascio family, trips to Bahrain, Christmases. What was your relationship like with the Cascio family when Michael was alive?
I only knew them through my uncle. And, I only really saw them when we went to New York. So there was many times where I would see them and be with them. And, my uncle loved them, and had faith and support and trust in them. And I don't want to sit here and say they're all horrible and they're all bad. I just think, at least a couple of them have made some very questionable decisions. For me, when you can make a questionable decision about my uncle, someone that I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours with, and do things that to me aren't right, I lose a lot of trust in you, and I can't no longer believe you. I can no longer believe that you're going to be true to the truth. Here's my point. I definitely know those aren't my uncle's vocals. I know that. I know that I know it from listening to it. I know it from the evidence. I know it from the confrontations that you guys haven't experienced, but the stumbles of the answers we get back when we're confronting a member of the family or someone who's close to the family. It's not my uncle. Now, with all that said, I don't understand why they would do such a thing, and it must be because their love for him was conditional or it wasn't true. And again, I don't want to say this is the case for the entire family because I don't know. I'm only going to speak on a couple of them. And I don't know. I don't know why they would do it. I know when you're in financial situations, you could do things you don't really feel you would have done, or your ethic or moral compass can be swayed. Maybe that's the reason. I try to be forgiving and I try to, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. It was just hard because I was presented, and I don't think I've ever shared this, but I remember when Angel came up to me saying he had Michael songs. And this was at Havenhurst soon after he passed. I think it was the week after he passed. He told me that he had a bunch of Michael songs and who should he go through to get them out or to get them. They're great and this. I wasn't in that mindset of dealing with that. I wasn't caring about hearing that. I was still mourning. And that should have been my first red flag. And I said, personally, I wouldn't do anything with it until the kids are adults. My Uncle Michael's never going to not be popular. So just wait, and to find out everything that had happened and the way it happened and how that advice was ignored. And I don't know if he was looking for support or hoping, I don't know what it was, but from then on, I hadn't talked to him, and I had done what I could to try to make sure my cousins and the Casio family was close, because from my experience until knowing about those tracks this was a family that my uncle loved and my cousins loved, and I want to make sure they are going to be as happy as they can be and feel that love. That's what we tried to do, but that was a very disappointing time period. And like I said, I can't trust them, and I don't have faith that they will always be there for my uncle the way they say they will.
When I'm looking at your quotes from 2010 and you're talking about, there's many MJ vocal impersonators, some better than others, but there is only one Michael Jackson. You're talking about merging shady vocals. Then you specifically named the person. You said it sounds like Jason Malachi to me as well. The vibrato is a dead giveaway that it's not my uncle. How did you know of Jason Malachi at this point? And just to give you a bit of backstory, with the case, Jason's lawyers at this point have directly reached out to the plaintiffs in the case to negotiate. So, I mean, somebody who wasn't on the songs wouldn't do that. So at that time, how did you know about Jason?
I think it was either a fan or maybe even Terrell, because Terrell knew more about this situation and Terrell may have brought up the name, or it could have been maybe even Damian Shields. I don't know who it was, but someone brought my attention to this guy, Jason, and I looked him up. And that was the voice. I've been doing music my entire life, and I there's things you can't change easily in your voice, and certain vibratos and certain ways of saying words. I mean, I guess you can manipulate it, but it was just too identical to what I was hearing from those three tracks to what he was doing. And I strongly still feel I have no concrete evidence that Jason was there at this date or he's saying that, but I'm just going off of my ears and it just sounds very much like him. So until I hear someone else, I will assume it's him. The one thing I know is that's not my uncle. My uncle doesn't sing. I've heard my uncle sing on many records, but I've heard him sing just around the house. He can impersonate different things. He can sound different ways. He did experiment. He tried to sing rock songs around at home. He would sing Broadway vibes. He would wake up singing classic, opera tunes, So I've heard his voice many different ways, but I never heard it forced. I never heard it not natural. I never heard it attempt to be something. And that's what I got from those vocals. It was an attempt to do something. And that's why I will always strongly feel that's not my uncle. And I have to, my loyalty rides with him. And I will always speak from the heart when I feel his legacy's been, mistreated. And I felt that was wrong to do.
When Teddy Riley asked Tarrell to participate in the production of the album, we spoke to Tarrell last year about it and he gave it, his perspective on the whole thing. I just wanted to know how you first heard there was an issue.
I first heard that issue from Terrell. I remember him calling me and saying, whispering on the phone, say, "Have you heard these tracks Uncle Michael's songs? And I was like, no. He's like, I don't know if you want to hear them. And I was like, why? He goes, and he's like, they're not even him. I was like, what? What do you mean they're not him? And I couldn't believe it was going to progress. But Terrell was the first one who told me, and I thought, it was like, I got to hear this now. So when I heard it, it was worse than what I thought it would. I couldn't believe it even got as far as it did, but it did, and but to say it was Terrell who informed me.
The guy who co-wrote the songs with Eddie, or Angel as you referred to him as, his name's James Port, and he was a studio collaborator with Michael Jackson during the Invincible era. He was I'm pretty sure he managed the Hit Factory in Miami and New York, so he was somewhat involved in the Invincible sessions. Do you know much about James Port yourself, or do you have a take on him?
No, I've met him maybe once or twice, I believe, at Havenhurst, again, after my uncle passed. I didn't know of him before, and I haven't talked to him since those records have been out. So I don't know much about him at all. I just know that I think he is married to one of the Casio sisters.
Yes, he is. Yeah, Marina Cole.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I guess it must be a little bit tricky for you because being a guardian of the kids, I know in 2011 at the Grammys, Michael's kids wanted the Casios to come out to be a part of the Grammys and all of that kind of thing. Is it tricky knowing all of that, but then also some of the family members having friendships with the Casio family, like Rebe was at the wedding and that kind of thing?
Well, it is tricky, and because it's one of those moments where as guardian, I had to kind of measure what I believe and what I strongly feel and what love. And, I don't know necessarily how much my cousins wanted the Casios to come out. I for the Grammys. That I think is being overstated.
Okay.
I never, to be honest, never heard them say, "Can the Casios come to the Grammys?" There was one time, I don't remember the year. I want to say it was maybe even 2009, where I flew with them to New York so that they could stay with the Casios for a week or so for Christmas, because that's where they wanted to do it. Besides that moment, there hasn't been any asking to go see the Casios from any of my cousins. I know Paris has seen them, and I know Austin and my Aunt Rebe is still close with Angel, I believe. I don't know if they still are, but
well, Angel produced Austin's latest record.
Yes, yeah, and I don't know, and it's like I said, I don't. That's just not the way I roll. Here's the thing. Like I said, I don't think that's my uncle singing. But even if that is my uncle singing, let's just say it is, that's not my uncle at his best. And therefore, it doesn't belong in the public. We all know, and when I say we, I'm talking about me and my entire family and the Casios, know how important my uncle's legacy and how important creating the best art was to him. He didn't want anything to go out or to do anything unless it was perfect. So the fact that they delivered that to be released and to represent him, again, let's just assume it is him, I have an issue with. I remember Terrell saying that, when he confronted Angel and he said it just wasn't a good performance for him. That's why the vocals are off. If it's not a good performance for my uncle, if you love him, you wouldn't let it see the light of day.
I've interviewed Eddie myself, and some of the things he told me were just really laughable. He said that the reason that there's legitimate Michael Jackson ad-libs in there amongst the rest of the vocals with the weird vibrato, his argument was that Michael would go around with a hard drive of a bank of ad-libs and he would drop ad-libs into all of his songs from past songs.
Let's go. I'll tell you, I've recorded with my uncle for Brotherhood. Like I said, there were songs on the Lost album, even songs before he had passed that we were just ideas. I'd never seen him do that. He was an amazing talent who could mimic and sound like anything whenever. It's not like my uncle to need to drop ad-libs from the past into records. That just wasn't him. So here's the thing. Like I said, I try not to talk bad about people, but I just can't trust them. I will never be able to trust them, and I just don't think I don't think what they did was right. like I said, I know that's not my uncle singing, but let's just say they truly feel it is, or they want to say it is. If you truly love the man, then why are you releasing things that would make him not at his best? You know what I mean? And that's something that to me there's no really answer for. And maybe other family members don't understand my uncle's commitment to excellence. Maybe some other family members could be more gullible. I don't know. All I know is what I feel and my experience, and all I could do is try to project love, and that's where I'm at on it.
The protests against things like the Casio tracks. For example, at the time, a range of Jackson family members, including you and your brothers and a range of your uncles and aunties and so many of Michael's collaborators, stood up and were united in their protest, saying this should not happen, this should not come out, even before the album came out. Even one of the beneficiaries, Catherine, didn't want it to happen. A co-executive didn't want it to happen, John McClane. How is it possible that such a project, in your opinion, could still happen?
I don't know. I don't like speculating, but I think oftentimes, I don't know. I don't know if it was a financially driven decision. I don't know if it was from others who really believed that it was, or got, misdirected data, or I don't know. Like I said, if we had more say or more leverage or more influence, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have came out. For me, when it comes to my uncle, I think about legacy. I don't think about financial. I don't think about the money it could raise. I think strictly about his legacy and how it will be remembered going forward, because that's what he cared about. I don't know. I don't know what the decision. I wasn't in that room. All I knew is that I could express my thoughts and my feelings, and try to do my best in letting his fans know that I don't feel that's him, and my uncle wouldn't have been okay with that. That's all I can do, and that's what I did.
So I guess I always felt for you personally, because were really in the middle of a tug of war in some ways, because you have the responsibility as the guardian of Michael's kids, but then there's the actual executors of Michael's estate. So how does that feel for you, being right in the middle as that sort of central bridging person, and then some people have been vocal in the past about John Branca basically wanting him to step down. So that puts you in quite an awkward position.
In a way it does, but I never tried to complicate things. I put all my energy when it comes to my uncle on my cousins and their well-being as people. So when it came to the projects or things that were going on with my uncle, I didn't really put myself in the middle of it. I felt there were other family members that either wanted to do that or could be relied upon more for that. I was very much inundated and swamped with decisions and things that needed my attention in terms of them as just kids adjusting to life without their father. So I never tried to overstep in that way, although, sure, I could have made a more argument, but I didn't want to dilute myself. I already had a family of my own. My first priority were the kids and to making sure they were okay in life. So all my decisions, for the most part, relied on that and what would be best for them as people. It wasn't necessarily what would be best for the corporation or for the Michael train, It was for what would be best for Prince, Paris, and BG. And that's what I believe, and that's what I did, and that's what I would do again. I think if I were to step in and try to do more things, it would spread me too thin, and I think my ability to be a guardian would have diminished. So it was something I was never really attentive to. I just wanted to focus on the kids.
So I should not worry about TJ. I should just Chill TJ has got this covered, and not to worry about it. He's got it.
I try to believe in the best of people. I really do. I try to believe in the betterment of people. I try to believe people make decisions from the heart and try to do what's best. I don't think it's always the case, and I don't always think the decisions are always the best. But it's like what I used to tell my grandmother. There's decisions that we would make that we didn't know, that we didn't know if it was the right decision. But I would say, the only thing we can do is make them from our heart. And they may be the wrong decision, but as long as we make them from the heart, then we can support that and find comfort in the decision. And that's just the way I am. I try to believe in the beauty of mankind and I don't know, I just try to spread that love to my cousins and make sure that they grow up thinking that, because they got a difficult road. There's going to be project after project and quote unquote opportunity after quote unquote opportunity that gets presented to them. And I don't want them to be cynics. I don't want them to think of the world as a one big trap, because that's not a way to live. But I also do want them to be smart and to be aware. But I do want them to always see the love and beauty in people. And that's something I always try to express.
We're very proud of the projects that Paris and Prince have really put themselves into and worked so hard on. I remember when the kids were born, I was, a fan for a long time before they were born, and then when Michael's dream of becoming a father came true, and to see them now, and Paris's incredible solo music and Prince's charity work, we're so proud of those kids. And we know whatever BG wants to do, he'll put his mind and heart into it, and we'll be proud of that too. We're just so happy for those kids.
And thank you, and thank all the listeners for supporting them. And I think when well, first of all, I'm proud of them too. I should say that. I love them like they're my own. I will always be here for them. It hasn't been the easiest path, but it's a path that I'm proud of, and I love watching what they're becoming. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone out there for supporting them. I think sometimes we have to remember their age, and remember they're not perfect, and remember that they're not Michael, and we have to embrace that they're their own person, and we have to embrace that, sometimes they may not make the right choices, quote unquote, that, or at least the ones that we feel they should be making. And sometimes we may not feel like they're paying attention to us, but they're good kids, they're beautiful kids, and they're just they're still finding themselves and finding what they are and what they want to become. And I just think the best thing we all can do is support them and help them, because it's going to be a challenging road for them. And I'm sure at one point the media is going to start turning on them. And I think it's important for us all to be there for them.
TJ, a question we ask every special guest when they get to the end of the interviews we do with them is, how do you think Michael Jackson should be remembered?
I think my Uncle Michael should be remembered for love, and for putting everything he had into his craft, into his music, into his dance, into, sharing love and trying to move mankind into a better place in the future. That's what he was. And I will always be thankful for him, and be grateful that I was his nephew. And like I said, I love him dearly, and I miss him every day, and that's my Uncle Michael.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Terrific. TJ, you've been an incredible support, even with the questions and your time today, and we're going to take a little detour that you were in on from the start, as well as a good friend of the show, Courtney. We're going to just take a little detour and give someone a bit of a surprise that they are definitely not expecting.
Yep. Okay. I believe we've got somebody waiting to call in on the line. Okay. Let's add in Cousin Kam from the Janet Jackson podcast, Janet Today.
Hello.
Cousin Kam.
Let me get my headphones right. How's everybody doing?
How's things, Cousin Kam? I've missed you.
I miss you too. Things are good. Dealing with the
Yeah.
weather.
And you're looking after yourself. Your family's okay.
Yeah, we doing fine so far. I only had two family members to be affected with COVID so far, so we're
Oh,
doing good.
okay. Okay. Well, I like want to just wish you a Merry Christmas first up, and all the best for Christmas and the New Year.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you so much. I think we've actually got you something special for Christmas.
Oh really?
Yeah, Jamon.
Hi, Cam. Just to let you know, this whole planning meeting we were talking about, that was kind of that's not really a thing. You're actually on the line right now with TJ Jackson from 3T.
I am here.
What?
How are you, Cam? It's
Oh my God.
wonderful to hear from you.
Oh my God.
So we should do some introductions. TJ Jackson, this is Cousin Kam. Cousin Kam is one of the hosts of the world's #1 Janet Jackson podcast. And yes, she's a big fan of 3T and of yours.
Well, Cousin Cam, I just wanted to thank you for all the support of not only myself, my brothers, my family, but especially my Auntie Janet. And just want to thank you for being who you are and doing what you do for all of us. So a big hug and so much love sent your way, Cam.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm calm. Let me get my composure. Okay. Okay. This is my moment. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. True story. Me and my cousin Courtney, she sent me a text and she was like, hey, you remember that summer you had us listen to 3T like the whole trip? Yeah, that was the bomb CD. And she was like, yeah, you really. I was like, girl. I was just like, oh, I wish I could send you a picture of my wall in high school. I had every
Oh.
Right On magazine, every picture, every poster. I was just like, if it wasn't 3T, Janet, or Michael, it was one poster of DMX. True story. Like,
DMX made it, huh?
yeah, he made the cut, but oh my God, I can't believe I missed out with DJ
Well,
Jackson.
well, thank you so much, Cam, for all of that love. It was felt, and it's felt now, and it means the world to me. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. And your family, I'm telling you, I mean, anybody gonna ride for the Jacksons is gonna be for me. I mean, you guys are a strong family. I mean, you guys, I just admire your strength, your work ethic, your contribution to music, to entertainment. So if you ever feel like, oh, if you're ever thinking like down or anything about like the media or everything, just know that you have a fan in Mississippi that loves you
Oh,
guys to
I'm
death. Oh my
Cam, that I'm telling you, that means so much to me because there are those moments where you feel, a little frustrated or down, or you don't, you get a little lost on whether you want to even continue on. And it's messages like the one you just gave me that remind me of the big picture and empower me and inspire me to continue on. And I know my whole family would agree. Whenever we hear those kind of messages from people anywhere in the world, whatever language, you could feel that energy and that love, and that means the world. It means so much to us. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh.
Cousin Kam, we're just going to keep you for a few minutes, but we thought perhaps you might have a question or two that you'd like to ask TJ, or even if it's about him or about Auntie Janet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we've put you on the spot real good, didn't we?
Okay. So I guess I've always wanted to ask this. Coming from a famous family and just being pretty much your whole family's been in the spotlight. I mean, ever since you got they started with Motown. And I just always, I know, at one point in your high school career, you were like a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that you were pretty good.
Mm.
Was there ever a moment in time where you was like, you know what? I might not do the family business. I might go a different path. And what stopped you from pursuing baseball to stay in the family business?
That's a great question. So I grew up loving baseball. That was my passion. I lived, slept, drank, whatever the saying is, ate it, all that good stuff was baseball. I knew every player. I knew every team, every stadium. I just had every baseball card. And I was a decent player. I grew up trying to play with at the level my brothers played at, and they're my two older brothers. So I was used to playing against good competition and was able to survive in that world. So whenever I played against my own peers, I always ended up doing pretty good because I was always used to playing against my older brothers. As far as did I ever, I even up until I'd say about 14, I used to think about playing professionally, even, doing camps and playing on high level teams. But it was right around 14 and a half, 15, I think, where I had to understand that a baseball career probably wasn't going to happen. And that was pretty much because we had signed to Sony or MJJ and we were recording. And, my brothers also, they're older than me. And when they decided to not pursue baseball at, as late teens and early 20s as a career, then I didn't think it was right for me to say, okay, well, you guys want to do music, but I want to do baseball. So I kind of was committed to my brothers as well. Now, here's the thing, Cam. This is something I haven't shared. We went through some difficult moments in our career of when we didn't feel like we had control of our career, or we didn't know what was going to happen next. And in my early 20s to even mid 20s, I went through a period where I was strongly contemplating re-pursuing baseball and really just putting music, my 3T career, finishing that book. But I think what stopped me was occasionally hearing from people like you, running into that person somewhere in this world that I could tell my music had an influence on, and that is a powerful thing. It inspired me to continue on with my music and to just let baseball be for true baseball players and let me just stick to my music. So that's what I'm doing. But there was definitely a time after 3T where I was strongly considering, just going for my other goal and dream in life, which was baseball.
Oh, well, I'm glad you chose music.
Yeah, and I did, and I don't, like I said, there was times where I even regretted going music, even though we were so successful doing arenas in Europe. There was a decent several years where I regretted not pursuing baseball. And I don't have those regrets anymore. I always wonder what it would be like, what it had been like. I've seen a lot of peers that I was stronger and better that when I was a kid that actually played professional baseball. And, even some of them said, you would have made it. You were better than me, or you did this better than me. You would have made it. You had everything you needed to make it. That was tough, a tough pill for me to swallow, especially when we were in the dark stages of 3T. But looking back, and especially with doing my solo stuff, I'm happy I'm doing music and stayed on this path. It's a blessing, and it's something that I don't take for granted.
Oh my God.
Cam, before we let you go, do you have a quick Janet question for TJ or?
Just wondering, TJ, because everybody wants to know, and they've asked me and my cousin if we had any information. But would Janet drop Black Diamond in 2021?
You know what? I hope so. I hope so. I don't know. She keeps things close to the chest, but I hope so. I think my aunt is very unique. She has an ability and a smoothness, but with some edge that I really haven't seen another artist. Maybe my uncle, and especially no other female artist really possess so naturally. So I know she's got some great projects that are coming up, and I'm excited, just like everyone else, to see and hear them. You know, she's an amazing talent, and I'm a fan as well. So I'm right there on pins and needles, wondering too, and hoping it's sooner than later, because I love hearing what she's doing and watching what she's doing.
Yeah, we're just waiting. I'm just like, oh, any day now. Maybe she'll surprise us and just drop it on a platform. And
It would be beautiful. The unfortunate thing is I have no insider news for you, so I can't. I'm sorry to let you down, Cam, but I don't have any inside info on that.
hey, I understand. I had to ask. I had
I
to
love
ask.
it. And real quick, I could share a cool Auntie Janet story. There are many, but the one that has been sticking in my mind lately is when my mother passed. We spent some time at my Aunt Janet's in her Malibu beach house. We spent several days there soon after, and obviously the location of our house being on the beach was very therapeutic and helpful for me. But also just her being there, and that was my favorite moment with Auntie Janet. She's the one who styled us for the funeral. She, made sure anything we needed we had during that first week or until my mother was buried, and she was just great. And yeah, I don't think we've ever shared that, and she needs her props for that because she stepped up as an aunt. So
I can
yeah.
just see her just saying, "Come in, fellas," and just giving you hugs and
Yeah.
oh,
And even during the dark moments with Sony when we didn't know what was happening, she was so supportive of us, and she tried to help us, get our freedom. And those two moments in particular, there's others. Even when I think of you being in that video and doing that and seeing Auntie Janet perform, that's all special. But those two private, personal moments for me were the biggest for me for Auntie Janet.
no.
TJ, what would Auntie Janet bring to the potluck?
Like you're saying just in general?
Yeah, what would Janet rock up with?
Um, that is a good question. I'm scared to answer because I don't want to. I think she definitely would bring some I think a dessert and some chillness. But I could see her bringing a dessert and some good times, some smiling and some fun. So yeah, I can't pinpoint exactly what she would bring, but I would just say a dessert and some low key chillness. That's what Auntie Janet is.
What would you bring to the potluck?
Let me think. You're saying like a family potluck?
Yeah, Jackson family potluck.
I'd probably bring some chocolate chip cookies.
Nice, classic.
Yeah, I think that's what I would bring. Not that I can make them good, but I love me some chocolate chip cookies. So, yeah, that's what I would bring. That's what I would bring.
Cousin Cam, you are the ultimate professional. What an awesome question that you came up with under this surprise pressure, and that speaks volumes. So, to one of my absolute ultimate favorite cousins, Merry Christmas. I love you guys. Please send my love to Courtney. She was totally in on this, so you can go get her in trouble.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys. Thank you, TJ, for doing this. For real. This is like the best surprise ever.
You are more than welcome. And thank you again for all your support and the love you show my family and my aunt. It means the world. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thanks, Cousin Cam. Can't wait till your next show.
Thank you, Cam.
All right, it's dropping in a couple of might be next week. We're trying to finish it up now.
Excellent.
All righty.
All right. Bye, Cam.
All right. I don't even know how to get out of here. I'm so hyped up. Oh my God.
That was so worth it. Thank you for helping arrange that, Jamon and Courtney and TJ. Let's drop back into the actual questions of the interview today. Can you tell us, is there anything happening that you want to share with the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation? It's a great foundation. We've always loved shining a light on it, and we do not want to miss the opportunity for you to talk about it.
Yeah, well, we're in year 5 of the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation, and it's a foundation that my brothers and I started on behalf of our late mother, Dolores Jackson, otherwise known as Dee Dee Jackson. But we're growing. We're doing, music therapy heals classes for kids and for youth around the country, and we're doing our Power of Love show, and we have other plans that were sidelined because of the pandemic. But in 2021, I'm not going to mention them specifically because I want to make sure it's still on the board for 2021. But we're growing, and it's something that has been very empowering for not only people, but for us. We didn't go to therapy when we lost our mother. We didn't have any counseling, and this has been our form of it, and it's been very empowering for us. And we love the community that's been built, and everyone who week after week follows us and who's in our Facebook group. We've just built a beautiful, loving, safe community, and we're looking to expand on that.
Awesome. That sounds great. And what can we expect from you in the coming months musically?
So in February, I'm going to release the first single off of my new project, my new album. Every 4 to 6 weeks from there, you're going to get new music from that album. And I see 2021 being equally as busy as 2020 was for me. I see some cool experimental R&B type of stuff coming, and I'm just hoping to bring joy and happiness to everyone who's listening, and to continue to try to set some music up for their lives, and to play a role in their lives in a positive way. And like I said, I have a lot of music still left in me, and I'm excited for everything that's coming. I want to do a blues album with my father in several years. He knows that. I talk about it all the time.
We need that.
Oh my God. We need
that's one
get
of my,
that acoustic stuff out.
That's one of my lifelong goals is do an album with my father and tour on it and spend some great father-son time and just do a cool little project. That's one. And then I'm also got a Latin. I got to learn the Spanish language. My mother spoke Spanish, and that's something I still haven't done fluently, but I plan to do, and I'm going to learn it and do a Spanish album. And I got a lot of stuff I want to do and plan to do, and I'm excited because I have a beautiful community that is enjoying it, and it makes everything so worth it. So I'm good.
Great.
Just in a few words, and TJ gets everyone hyped up.
Yeah, I it wasn't my goal. I was just trying to express what I'm doing, and like I said, I have so much excitement and for me that's coming up, and I'm excited to show and grow with everyone who's listening and who's enjoying it.
That's amazing. And lastly, TJ, we want to give you the opportunity, if fans of yours want to find you online and connect with you, where can they find you on social media and the web?
Yeah, so I'm on everything. Instagram, TJ Jackson 9, Twitter, TJ Jackson, YouTube and Facebook, TJ Jackson World. I know I'm supposed to have one for everyone, but you can also just go to my website, www.tjjackson.com, and find me on all those platforms, or find where I'm at from the website. And another thing is you can always subscribe to my newsletter, where I try to keep everyone up to date with what's going on in my world, as well as share some positive phrases and sentences and positive sentiment to my readers. So I'm doing a lot of stuff, but I'm doing it with the purpose of just trying to bring joy and positivity in the world.
And listeners, don't forget the music. Like, it's not all about just the man, but the music. It was only, 2-3 weeks ago, I think, when you dropped your latest single, that your image was the header on my Spotify release radar. So I guess that thing that comes every Friday that goes, oh, here's a whole bunch of new music that you're probably going to love. And your awesome visuals with your cool hair and stuff was the big header image. I was like, yeah, how about that? Getting a Jackson as my header image for my release radar.
I love that. And that means you are following me, I guess, on Spotify. So that is probably the other big thing. If I could put on a marketing hat, it would just be to follow me on whatever streaming platform you use, so that you get my music and you hear it and it gets fed to you I got fed to you,
Yeah,
Q.
gotta love those algorithms.
Yeah. So just follow me. That's one thing that my management and marketing person would tell me to say, is to make sure you're following me on the music streaming platforms.
100%. Do it, listeners. You will not regret it, especially hearing what is in the future coming, like what TJ wants to bring us. Good stuff.
Yes.
TJ, thanks so much for giving listeners that social information. Q, where can people find us as well?
Everywhere. It's really easy, folks. Just search on whatever platform, basically, for the MJCast, all one word, the MJCast. You'll find a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and then the podcast streaming platforms, which of course this whole machine is for this amazing content. Spotify is back at the moment, Jamon. My God, what a drama that is. And
it's back minus
anyway,
your
we won't even
episodes.
talk about that. Well, not just my favorite episodes. Anyway, we had an idea about that. We're going to talk about that after to get those out there in another way. But yeah, Apple Podcasts, Google, all of those shenanigans. It's the MJCast. And if you're listening, you've already found us. So tell other people. That's the other thing. Tell other people. Tell other fans of Michael, of the Jackson family, of TJ. Tell other people. Share the stuff. It's all good. Enjoy.
TJ, this is incredibly selfish of me, but I've got to say, when I log on to YouTube and Apple Music and all of these different places, I can watch concerts from all of my favorite artists, but I cannot find a 3T live concert. I need a 3T live concert. High definition. What's up? Let's go.
It's funny you say that, because Taj and I were talking about that about a month ago, because we have the Brotherhood tour in great quality. We are talking about putting together a show, and with some backstage footage. It may be coming. And trust me, I'm excited to see it too. I haven't seen or heard anything from the Brotherhood tour in 20 plus years. So it'll be fun for me to even watch and go through that footage. So hopefully soon, though. Hopefully soon.
Fingers crossed.
I pitched this idea to him years ago. I said, what would be amazing if that comes out would be a commentary track over the top with the three of you guys talking about the show as it's happening.
It's great. I'm there.
Yes.
And I will talk to him about it. If you talk to him again, remind him. But if we get that going, I will be there day one and excited for it. So you have no complaints on this side.
Oh, we're chatting with him on Saturday, so...
Cool. Let him know.
All right. Well,
this has been... Jamon, did you just save the best interview of the year till last? Like,
Q,
wow.
I think we've got a candidate for
Merry
the best
Christmas.
interview of our 6 seasons.
This has been amazing.
I want to thank you guys. It was a lot of fun. And really, thank you guys for being so supportive of my uncle. And I promise you couldn't have found a better person to support. And, he was a magical, loving person. And really, thank you for all you do and all the support and giving the fans and supporters a place to learn and really, get their MJ fix. I truly appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Well, like Cousin Kam would say, we ride or die for the whole Jackson family. Like, we love all of you, and we support everything, and we just want to give you all strength. And now Siri's yelling at me. we all just want to give the support that you guys need in those times that you need it most. And you've got us. So thank you. You've been so generous with your time and your answers, and we really, really appreciate it. And we know the listeners are going to love it. And what a great way to wrap up the year, Jamon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, TJ. It's been amazing, and I feel really just honored to be able to speak with you about your story and your great new music.
Absolutely. Don't miss it, people.
Thank you so much for having me, and God bless you all, and take care and have a good rest of your year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas and all the best for New Year.
Merry Christmas.